we could be from some, you know.
Welcome to the Map It Forward podcast, everybody. And welcome to my dear, dear friend, Gina Di Brita. Gina, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Lee. After so many glitches this morning.
Right. And we were obviously just talking offline. Gina, it feels like you and I have been friends for thousands of years, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. Yeah,
So
we've always said that.
It's, for me, it's one of the cool things is that we have a conversation during what is the interesting time that we're through now. And you being the reason, well, I have a lot of reasons for wanting to have you on the podcast. One of the big reasons is because we're looking to document the history of what's going on for business owners, for professionals, and for origin countries. And you've done so much work building Numero Uno. You've done so much work with your staff, you and your kids, and your employees become like your extended family, don't they?
They do. Yes. Yeah.
And then you've got your other family at origin.
Yeah, that's a huge extended family.
Yeah.
Huge. Yes.
Yeah.
And when,
So I'm
when
like,
you meet, when you meet people at origin for the first time, there is a saying in particularly in Papua New Guinea, and now it's just left my mind. But there is a really good saying, that once you meet these people, you're friends for life. That's how it is over there.
Well, that's what it was like for you and I.
It's true. Yeah.
Which was,
I think it comes from the individual itself. Because I think I was born. I don't know. I think I was born this way. I was always very open to meeting new people. I wasn't afraid of meeting new people ever. And I remember growing up in my household, there was always so much. There was always so many visitors coming. Whether it was the priest, the local priest, it's
the Wog way, isn't it?
Yeah, the Wog way. All the relatives or the friends or my dad's workmates. There was always a household full of people.
Aunties, uncles, parents, friends who became aunties and uncles, an impromptu poker night that started at 11 o'clock at night, all of that kind of stuff was in our household too. And we'd be the kids trying to sneak in and just sit there and watch them play poker.
Exactly.
It's kind of the cultural, you grew up in an Italian household. I grew up in an Arab household. Something that I think really prepared people like us for careers in the coffee industry is that hospitality is in our DNA because of that, right?
That's really interesting you say that, because I do often think, how did I end up in coffee? Yeah. I woke up every morning to a stovetop, the mocha pot, the stovetop, whatever you guys want to call it, a cafetiera. And I used to think, oh, gosh, I'm never going to do that when I grow up. Never. It was like I didn't want to do I was always like, I don't want to do anything that my parents are doing. And I'm sort of doing
exactly what
they do, except for making the salami. And I've gone through that stage.
Don't worry, Corona's here. You'll have to start doing that soon too.
Yeah. I have actually been cooking a lot more.
Well, you got nothing else to do you?
Well, yeah. Look, I've got plenty to do, but I have enjoyed cooking a lot more.
Really?
I have. Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Keep cooking.
Yeah, going back to my roots. I actually made a lasagna, which I never make because, I just don't eat that sort of food, but I decided one day I'll make a lasagna and freeze it just in case. I don't know. I've just been cooking. I've been baking cakes, which I haven't done in such a long time.
How does it make you feel to be doing all this stuff?
I think, it's been an interesting time for me. I think it's funny. It's sort of like, as I said, I've got so much to do. Funnily enough, everything's sort of stopped, and everything's so surreal at the moment.
Yeah, and it's like we're living in a movie, isn't it?
I say to people, sometimes I feel like I'm in a time machine waiting for my next destination. That's how I explain it.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, I feel that.
It's a holding pattern, right?
Yeah, but in saying that, I'm on the go. We've actually just opened up an espresso bar, believe it or not.
What?
Yes. So this is what I'm going to share a lot of things with you today. It's a crazy time.
You opened an espresso, but when was this?
So 3 days ago.
What?
It's directly underneath my warehouse, my roastery where I roast in Waterloo, Allen Street. Just a little bit of a plug here.
Yeah, please plug away.
And it's actually the owner of the landlord who not the landlord, sorry. Well, it is. It's the landlord's cafe. He said, Gina, what do you think? And I said, yes, let's open it now. Let's open it. Let's open it. I mean, it's been a work in progress, and it's actually been really well received because we're surrounded with like thousands of apartments here. Do you know Waterloo?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I grew up in Sydney.
Yeah, well, it's apartment city now. And I know some of them are probably empty because some of them have gone home, but people are working from home, and we can still go out and venture out and get our coffee here, or, because we are classified as an essential, an essential, business. There was another word, actually. It's not essential. Anyway, they did use the word essential. I think, who's going to help the frontline workers stay awake?
Yeah.
Coffee.
Hence,
coffee.
I'm going to give a little bit of a plug. If people go to check out coffeeforthefrontline.com, we're starting a new program, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. I've been watching it. It's amazing.
Thank you so much.
Amazing.
I cannot believe the response that we've got.
But see what you're doing? Innovate. You've got to be innovative. You can't just sit around and woe is me. You just can't.
That's one of the other big reasons that I wanted to have you on. I was saying during the Instagram live today, like, you are such a fucking brilliant example of somebody who doesn't sit around and wait for other people to solve problems for her.
No.
And that's probably why we felt like we'd known each other for 10,000 years when we met, because we're very similar for a bunch of reasons. But it's like, you look at what you're doing, it doesn't surprise me that you've opened a cafe in the middle of a time when most cafes are going broke.
Yeah. But at the same time, I'm actually picking up new customers. That's another interesting thing. And I'm not joking. And I'll tell you why in a minute. And helping them, to keep them going. I'm giving them some advice on how to keep going.
But this goes to my point, Gina, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Like, this is a time, for anyone who's listening, this is like, this is how Gina and I talk. This is like, these conversations are not contrived conversations that I have with people. These are just how I talk with people when we're on the phone. This is a normal conversation with Gina.
I think this is why I was excited, because you just never know with you.
Oh, and I hope that's a good thing.
No, it's a good thing. I think I don't like anything too organised. Maybe no, don't get me wrong. I am organised, but maybe
it's just a conversation, right?
Yeah,
it's not an interview; it's a conversation.
Well, yeah, I've said to people, I'm going to be interviewed, but it is more of a conversation. You're right, and I think that's why I was excited and nervous at the same time, because we never know where we're going to go with our conversation.
We teeter on the edge of getting ourselves into trouble with some of the shit that we talk about.
Yes. But I'll pull the reins back on that one sometimes.
Sometimes. But here's the thing that I'd love to get your thoughts on. So I think that this is a really interesting reckoning for our industry. And what I mean by that is, we ended up in a situation where, because the barrier to entry is so low for our industry, both professionally and from a business owner perspective, you had businesses that had been built on a house of cards and surviving by the skin of their teeth.
Yeah.
And then this corona pandemic shows up, and those businesses that were surviving by the skin of their teeth and that had been built on a house of cards had been knocked over, whereas those businesses that had been built slowly over years by people who knew what they were doing had these concrete pylons as a foundation. And they're surviving this. They're getting hit hard, but now that this has come and, the hurricane has swept through or is sweeping through, they know where they can kind of cut costs, where they can take opportunities and run with them. They've turned their cafes into grocery stores, or they've, all this kind of innovative stuff. That's the difference between Well, that's the difference that this reckoning has kind of afforded our industry the opportunity for. And I,
Exactly.
for one, am kind of, I think it's a good, what do you think?
Yeah, I do. I really do, because I think this this time that we're facing, um, it's really interesting for me. It's given me different opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
both personally and professionally.
Yeah.
And you're right. You know, it is a good thing in one way, because it's going to sort out the establishments that were built on a house of cards, so to speak,
Yeah.
and the ones that were built from solid
Yeah.
perseverance, solid, grounding,
Grit.
grit. And I didn't realize all the stuff that I've been through with this company, with this business, because, I live and breathe and eat and sleep this business.
Mm-hmm.
I love, I don't, I don't, I love what I do.
You're not pretending. You're not a
No,
pretender.
I've never been like that. I
right.
mean, look at you when you first met me, Gina. How come I never heard of you? Because, I've never really put myself out there. I put myself out there first and foremost for customers.
Right.
My customers, well, my staff first and foremost, because they are my first customer, and then my customers.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you know what? I have to shout out to any of my customers listening now, if they are. Hopefully they didn't get put off by the 10-minute lag of getting on. My customers through this, when we were first told, about this whole situation going down, and things had to shut down, I immediately lost 70% of my sales. My
Mm-hmm.
sales dropped by 70%. And I started getting on the phone and started calling all my customers, because a lot of them actually shut down completely. Some of my bigger establishments that I've been working with for years, and I'm telling you, years, they've been with me for years, and some of them have opened up a second and third cafe. So I rung them, and some of them closed down completely. And at first, when I realized how severe, how serious it was, when I was ringing them, to talk to them about their orders, and they said, "Look, Gina, we're going to close down and just see how this all pans out." And it just, I went into a little bit of oh wow, it just hit me.
Yeah.
Oh wow, this is actually really serious.
Oh yeah, the shock is it kind of seeps in slowly, doesn't it?
Yeah. And you know what? I don't think there's anything wrong with me using this word. I feel that a lot of us went through a bit of a traumatic experience.
I think that's the perfect word to use.
Yeah, it was quite traumatic, realizing this like complete shutdown of everything and everyone. And but my customers were so amazing for the first time, because I'm there always encouraging, and just I'm there for them. I'm solving problems constantly for the past 18 years.
Mm-hmm.
And here's my customers going, "Don't worry, Gina, everything's going to be okay. You're going to be okay. We're going to be okay." And it's so true.
Yeah.
So these are the beautiful things that are happening, both personally and professionally. My customers are encouraging me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
To hang in there, don't worry. Because at first there's so much uncertainty, and there's all these different reports and different in the beginning. You remember where you are.
There's layers to it, right? Like at the end of the day, no one on the planet's experienced this before.
No, exactly.
And so for all of us, it was a shared trauma. And some people have come like by processing it.
Yeah.
And we all process that trauma at different rates, I think. It's definitely great for showing people who the real leaders are around them and who are not. It's shown people that used to idolize who they should be idolizing.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Calls, and it's been beautiful. It's like, wow, can we come on board with you? We're not being looked after by our current, and I'm telling you, these are big coffee companies that have suddenly become, I don't know what's happened, but they're not nicely. There's a lot of arrogance at the moment. And here I am immediately going and seeing the value and seeing also their trauma that they're going through, and jumping in because I see this as an opportunity for both. And this is what's been happening. So I see this as an opportunity. And also it is going to sort out a lot of people, a lot of businesses and a lot of people. I mean, businesses come from a mindset. It comes from a certain mindset. It's not just how pretty the and how expensive the fit out is, because that's not going to cut it in a time like this. I tell you what it is. It's relationships.
Oh, yeah.
It's relationships.
Mikey Eggert, he's my favorite chef in the world. I
watched him a bit.
Oh, yeah. Isn't he awesome?
He's so humble.
Very humble. And let me tell you, Gina, if we ever get to go to actually have a meal again in a restaurant anytime in the next 5 years, I'm going to take you to Toddy's or wherever he is.
Yeah, okay.
He is an incredible chef and he's an incredible leader. But as he was saying in the conversation, like Maryvale is built on beautiful dining experiences. And that's, for the foreseeable future, that's no longer a part of the business that we're in because it's irrelevant, right? So these people who've spent $1 million on a fit out, they're going to, it's an equalizer now. Because your $1 million fit out, your $2 or $3 million fit out is not going to be what your customers are looking for. It's null and void right now. The relationships that you've built with people where they feel like you've got their back, you can empathize with the trauma that they're experiencing. That holds so much currency right now. And I didn't realize that until a couple of phone calls later. You know, I picked up a Melbourne customer. Wow.
It was bizarre. This guy goes, Gina, I cannot believe, and this was a little bit after 5 p.m, this guy rings me out of frustration that he couldn't get through to a Melbourne coffee company. No names again.
Anyone listening, Melbourne's in a different state than New South Wales where Gina is. It's the next state over. It's south from where she is.
And, you know, Melbourne is considered the coffee capital of the world. I don't know, maybe they'll love me saying that.
I'm from Sydney. Don't say that.
But they say, you know, there's this rivalry.
There is this rivalry. It's one of the well-known coffee cities in the world.
Well, it is. And maybe it used to be.
Come on now, you're a Sydney girl. You can't betray us.
But you know, I'm a Melbourne-born.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, I'm a Melburnian.
No wonder you're going to the other side every now and then.
No, I never do. No, I'll give them, you know, some credit, maybe with their fashion. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Their restaurants are fantastic.
Their restaurants are beautiful. They really are. They're amazing, and you can get quality food and coffee wherever you go. In most places, in Sydney, you've really got to know where to go to get that quality.
I also think that Sydney's, the last time I was there, I'm like, the pretentiousness is just getting too much for a lot of it.
Well, I think that's why, you know, like I was gobsmacked with this person ringing me again out of frustration. This has happened in the last week and a half.
Yeah.
You know, where I picked up these customers from the lack of service. You know.
Wow.
And for me, this is easy. This is easy, Lee. I mean, I've been doing this for 18 years and people always say, oh, well, you're a natural-born salesperson, but I always hated that sort of saying or that title, and I'm not. For me, it's really about building relationships.
Gina, you thrive at showing up for people.
Thank you, Lee, and that's what I've been getting. I can show you probably half a dozen of beautiful, beautiful messages exactly that, and I'm not going to be shy to say, yep, that's true, because I thought everybody else was operating on that level, but they're not.
I can really, really identify with what you've just said.
Right?
Yeah.
I just thought they were, and they're not. And that's the sad thing, because we're a part of hospitality.
That's the part of it that made me assume that everybody was operating at that level, because obviously people get what hospitality means, right? It's
yeah,
about everybody else. It's not about you.
yeah,
It's about offering with humility and with generosity and with intention, and making sure that people's needs are met in a way that keeps you both enjoying the relationship. So you have to be profitable as a business.
Of course.
But you have to humbly offer what you've got to offer.
Yeah. I mean, otherwise, Lee, why would people want to venture out and pay? Because, I mean, dining out and even going to a cafe these days, it is quite expensive.
Yeah, it really
right?
is. And it's going to get more expensive after this.
Exactly. Why would you even bother if people aren't going to show up with readiness, readiness and willingness to serve you? Because hospitality is about serving you. And, I don't know, maybe it goes back to our roots. Okay?
It really does.
I think so. You're right. I think you hit it on the nail, because I don't know, I can't show up no matter how I feel. And I'm tired today. Like, I don't sleep much these days.
You look incredible.
Oh, thank you. You do too. But
wasn't fishing
you
for a
always do.
compliment.
Yeah, you always do. I've got to give it back. Come on. I can't just.
You look like you just got your hair did. How in the middle of a pandemic do you look like you've just had your hair done? Who's doing your hair in the middle of a pandemic?
Oh, there is some. There is hairdressers that are open.
Oh, you're not allowed to be open here. No,
not there. Okay, there are some, but there's this.
Why do you think I've got a hat on? My roots need doing.
You look good in a hat. It suits you.
Thanks. It's the red lipstick. Trust me.
I love it.
It distracts.
Yeah. I just wore the opposite. I wore pink, a little bit of pink today, but just for some colour.
Just for some colour.
Yes.
So you're not sleeping as much at the moment? Is it because you're busy or because you're stressed?
No, look, I wouldn't say stress. Yesterday I had a little bit of frustration with a couple of things, but I get up and I live to the fullest, I think.
Yeah,
I think that's my issue.
Oh, yeah, you do.
I just live to the fullest, and it's like, what can I, what am I going to achieve today that's going to make a difference for someone or as a whole? That's how I live my life. So yeah, I've been really super busy. I'm turning this whole COVID-19 situation into a huge opportunity. I'm reinventing myself. I'm my business. What's the word? Restructuring.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've actually had the opportunity to pick up on on what's not working or what hasn't been working efficiently in the past.
Wonderful.
And because I can read the signs really quickly of what's happening and what's going to happen. See, I don't even have a TV anymore, Lee. It's embarrassing to say, but
it's not. I haven't had a TV for 12 years.
Okay.
Don't be embarrassed.
There you go. I forgot we've got something in common.
I don't much in common, woman.
I know. I don't have time for TV. So what do? I just read. I study I was trying to read something last night, but it was a bit too scientific for me about what's happening and how we're going to all come back from this in the coffee industry. And it was a pretty interesting report from ICO, International Coffee Organisation.
Oh, I've got to read that one.
Yeah, it was really interesting, but it had algebra and everything in it, doing it had all these
calculations,
graphs, all the calculations. And believe it or not, I used to be top of my class in algebra. That was it. Everything else in maths, I was a failure. So, yeah, I was always intrigued by algebra. I don't know. I loved algebra, but reading that last night, I was like, oh gosh, what is all this?
Yeah,
I haven't seen it in years.
It's one of those times when, and we've been talking a lot about this on the podcast. People who have spent their time investing in building their character over the last couple of decades or over the last 10 years or whatever. People who invested in building their character rather than invested in building beautiful houses and beautiful luxurious things. In order to invest in building your character, you have to get comfortable with the discomfort of doing hard shit.
Oh my goodness.
Right?
Oh gosh, don't get me started.
And I'm talking to the queen of doing hard shit right now.
Yeah.
And this is where, when something like this shows up, we thrive, because we've been doing hard shit for so long that this is just business as usual for us, right?
Yeah. It's no different
No.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit it on the nail. Absolutely. It's no different to what I've been through in my life.
It's all about adapting. It's all about getting in
Exactly.
there.
Yeah, yeah.
You're one person. I know you're working on a book right now.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
and
gosh.
I can't wait to read it because, I mean, you've definitely been through it. You've got kids, you've got grandkids, you've been married, you've got your own business. You keep reinventing. And for anyone who hasn't had their own business, I don't know that you can understand the colossal achievement of having a business for 18 years.
I know. And you know what? And how you just said it, I know that you know what I go through because, just the way you said it, because I've been criticised, sometimes even from my own family, Lee. And I always keep saying, look, there is a method to my madness or whatever. I've got to make up excuses that there's a method to my madness or whatever, But I've gone through so much with this business that it really has built character. And yes, I've made a lot of mistakes.
Haven't we all?
And I will not pretend I haven't, because the mistakes are what actually builds more character. The mistakes are what helps you realise what how you can move forward in a better way. And as long as you don't make that mistake again. And I think, that's why I think with this book, it's people say, well, what's it going to be about? Well, that's been the hard thing. I went back to my mentor, Jane Turner. She's so lovely. That's how because I really wanted to write a book, and I thought, well, where do I start? Where the heck do I start? Where? Because I've got so much in here.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, well, what's it going to be about? And so I went along to this workshop that she put on at the beautiful library, the New South Wales State Library, and that was it for me. That day I just thought, yes, I'm going to write my book, because there was a few people showcasing their books and what they went through to get there. And writing a book, I don't know where the idea came from, but it's been in my heart for years now, But I always thought, well, what's it going to be about? And I thought, well, hang on, Gina. It's definitely going to be, obviously about a journey that I've been seeing through. I mean, there's going to be coffee. It's going to be a coffee aspect to it, but it's not about coffee.
But your story is so much bigger than coffee.
Well,
your story is all about showing up and the bruises and scars that you have to accept to be hit with if you are going to show up. Right?
Wow. Yes.
Because
I might get you to put a forward in my book.
I'd be honoured to write your forward,
Lee,
Gina.
Actually, that was beautiful. Beautifully said. It's
I
true.
would be honoured to write the forward for your book.
Thank you.
Because you're somebody who, you don't just talk the talk. You can demonstrate. Me having had this business, Elixir Specialty Coffee, this is coming up to 5 years, but then having my own record label before that for 10 years. And knowing, you live on the poverty line as a business owner. Everyone gets paid before you do. And I was saying, who was I on the phone with yesterday? It was during the podcast with Gunga.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
And we were talking about how nobody tells you how hard this is going to be. And if anyone had told you it was going to be this hard, you wouldn't believe them, right?
No, I'd still do it anyway.
I wonder if I would. If somebody had have said, well, now I wouldn't take my journey back for anything.
Right, yeah.
But if somebody had have said to me, this is going to bring you to the brink of death.
Yeah. Oh.
You think twice about it.
Yeah, yeah.
But now it has shaped me into a woman that I'm proud to be. Exactly. It's shaped me into a woman that is I get to be friends with people like you. And that people with such integrity, people with such determination, people who show up for themselves. That's the company I want to keep. A mutual friend of ours, Nawar Adra, he said to me, we were having a conversation one day, and he said to me, you know how I know that I've made it? Because he's like us, you know, he's trying to build his, built your empire, but he's working on building his empire. And he said, when I can sit at a dinner and we all are of the same experience, we've all worked really hard to build what we've got, we've all got enough money to sit at the same table and afford the same meal, that's when I'll know I've achieved what I wanted to achieve. What a great vision.
Yeah, how gorgeous is that? Yeah.
You know, it's not like you're sitting there worried about who can afford to be here, who can't afford to be here, and has this person brought along somebody that doesn't deserve to keep the same company?
Yeah.
You know, it can be a pauper's dinner.
Exactly.
But everybody's rich in experience and integrity and authenticity.
So true.
That's the table that you want to occupy when you've gone through the fire, like we've gone through it. It's like you've earned the right to, I've earned the right to have friends like you.
Oh, Lee, that's beautiful. Thank you. It's really interesting you say that, because, you know, I've been quietly working away behind the scenes, putting a lot of people forward before me, because I always felt that, you know, they deserve to be out the front. And you know, it's not about me. None of what I've done in my life is about me. Even my children probably don't even get me. But, you know, that's another thing. I kept going to show my daughters, my 3 daughters, what they can achieve, no matter who they are or where they are or what they do.
Oh, yeah.
Or even how much money they've got. It's not even about money. This journey that I've lived is not even about money. Oh, my goodness, it's so much bigger and richer than this. And then when you get to go to visit Origin, where the coffee growers, where the farmers who provide this incredible beverage called coffee, when you go and visit these farmers, that's when you realise, oh, my God, okay, now I know why I'm doing this. That's when you truly realise. Because really, when I fell into coffee, and you never fall into anything, it's really interesting, life. It's really interesting. And I remember
you accidentally, deliberately ended up there.
Yeah, I mean, it is crazy. And it's the long, you know, I never thought I'd be in such an industry for this long. And trust me, there was moments along the way where I thought, oh, maybe I should go and do something else. Maybe I should study. Maybe I should go to university and study something. But once you're in this industry, something happens. It gets under your skin, and what you want to do is you want to just keep getting better at it.
Yeah.
And you know, the whole perfection thing, there is nothing. I've learned that there is no such thing as perfection, but it's about continually, you know, achieving something where you know that you've made a difference in someone's life. And I know I've made a difference in many, many people's lives.
That's so beautiful.
It's the truth. I know I don't have to write down what and who, because I don't take count of anything, because I move on very quickly. But that's the purpose of my life. And it took me years to figure out, what am I here for? What am I doing on this earth? What am I really here for? And it's only when you keep going back to the root of something, okay? It's only when you keep going back to the root of something, you figure out why you're here. Because you can keep adding and adding and adding and adding, and you'll never figure out who you are, or you'll never achieve anything. And the less that you carry with you, know, the more, like, you know, that saying about the onion, and you're peeling and you're peeling.
Yeah.
And I've had to do that along the way.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because life can keep adding things. And before you know it, you're walking over hunched over, or you become bitter, or before you know it, you're hating somebody, and, you know, and then you realise, oh, hang on, is this really about life? So if everybody did that, imagine how much better this world would be. And I know there's some amazing people out there that talk about this for a living, you know, and it's really about it's even more so that it's even more bigger than mindset. It's really what I figured out. It comes from the heart. You have to be more in touch with your heart these days, you know.
Did you find on your way, I definitely experienced this. It took me a minute to understand that in order to help people and be of service the way that I wanted to show up in my life. I'm not a religious person. Being of service isn't a religious thing to me.
No.
Being of service is I want to be a part of a community. I want to live in a world that I'm proud to live in. And I'm not there. I'm not in a world that I'm proud to be a part of. I'm not in an industry that I'm proud to be a part of. Right? So showing up and being of service for me is about setting an example to create an industry that I want to be a part of, and being kind to people so that I can be in a world and surrounded by people that I want to be around, right? And I felt this sense of guilt, and maybe it's because of like our upbringing, our cultural upbringing, that there was this weird guilt that if I succeeded in life, that there's something wrong if you want to be successful. So it was this thing of you sacrifice yourself for the sake of others, and that should be, and perhaps that's like a Catholic guilt thing. But it's this idea of if you put yourself ahead of other people, you're being an asshole. And what this hard journey has taught me is there's a difference between putting yourself ahead of other people and knocking people over so that you can be successful.
Exactly. There's nothing wrong with being successful.
No,
nothing at all.
That's something I had to learn.
Oh yeah, nothing at all. And really, you have to within yourself determine what true success is for you, right? That's all it is. There's no. You don't need a PhD to work out. I mean, you probably have to go through a lot to figure out what true success means to you, because I can tell you I even built my own home years ago. And it ended up in Vogue Living Australia. I mean, I've done so much in my life that I look back, I had everything. I had money coming out of my ears. I was a part of an industry that was so, it was crazy, the money. I mean, you know, I was a tobacco grower.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I grew tobacco for 13 years, owned and operated my own farm in Far North Queensland. And that was such a lucrative industry. We were buying cars like every year, a new one every year. I mean, it was so lucrative, but the work was so hard. It was like from season to season. So I understand farmers. I actually understand farmers. And I didn't realise that my background in farming was going to, you know, allow me, you know, like sort of 18 years, you know, not 18 years, well, 12 years later, I find myself, or was it 10? Yeah, 12 years later, I find myself in an industry where I've gone back to the roots.
Yeah,
back to the, you know, back to the soil.
Deliberately by accident.
Yeah, deliberately by accident. I'm like, and that's when, and I met these coffee farmers, these women coffee growers in Colombia.
Yeah.
That 25 of them that came to greet me and all huddled around me and hugged me. And that's when I realized, oh my goodness, this is why I'm in coffee. It's not about the coffee, it's about the people and the journeys of and you know what, can I tell you about women all over the world, we're all the same. It's so beautiful to see. We're natural nurturers.
Yeah.
We're just women, it's hard to explain. You don't even have to know the same language, because obviously, you know, I don't really speak Spanish. I don't speak Tetum, you know, in East Timor, Papua New Guinea, they've got their own language. I mean, I've traveled, and women around the world are all the same. And when we all meet, when women gather, there's something really enriching and powerful. And I you know, and this is why I started the whole International Women's Coffee Alliance Australia chapter here. Because I felt that there wasn't enough of that here in Australia. And you know, it is women in Australia, in a country like Australia.
Yep.
It's totally different to women, as in I guess the culture is different. But women
Yeah.
ourselves, we're the same. You know?
I think especially being raised from as wogs, so I find that when Arab women get together and Italian women get together, or even Italian and Arab women get together, that cultural richness is assumed. It's very understood.
Yes.
Because we come from a cultural
yeah.
kind of a cultural conversation that makes a lot of sense, right? Gee,
Yeah.
you're a popular woman, aren't you?
Oh, am I? Really? What's going on?
Just
I can't even see what's going on.
Aren't you
that.
flicking?
Yeah. People
flicking
are
the
sending
phone.
messages. I think someone's taking photos of us on this.
And
Stop,
sending you
guys.
photos.
Send it to me later, guys. Oh, can you see me doing that? Can you?
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
No problem at all. No, it's not. It's fine. This is a real conversation.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, like, so for me, being raised in an Arab world in Australia, and then coming to and living in America, seeing the Mexican culture is very rich here in San Diego.
Wow.
And so to see the cultural differences that I can relate to amongst Mexican culture, which feels a lot more approachable to me.
Yeah.
Versus the American kind of typical kind of cultural reference feels very foreign to me.
Yeah.
And that's that kind of innate female kind of, not female, but women have this just natural tendency towards empathy that is just kind of understood amongst women.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
Exactly. 100% makes sense. Of course it does. Yeah. And look, we're I know. Look, I mean, we've been made to carry children for 9 months. Who does that? I do look at my daughter recently had, one of my daughters recently had a baby. Another baby. So I'm 4 grandsons now, Lee.
Wow.
4.
3 daughters and 4 grandsons.
Yes. Yeah. And I watched her and I watched just this thing growing in her. I mean, I've been through it, but watching someone else, it's really extraordinary. You just watch a woman go through all these different changes and it's like, wow, we really do.
Human in them.
Yeah, I know. We're just like incredible.
Yeah.
We're just incredible. And to all the men out there, we love you. Got nothing. I'm not saying anything against men here at all. It's I'm just relating. I'm just sort of bringing up the fact that, I guess the more important thing, the participation of women in coffee is so important because of everything we talked about. We're more empathetic. We are natural nurturers. We're the ones that sort of, we're more the caregivers to our young children. So the importance of that role, to bring them up and to hopefully, transform them into amazing young adults. I think it does fall a lot on the shoulder of a mother, I guess. And I've seen that a lot in all the coffee growing countries that I've traveled to. More so probably than here.
What do you think? Do you think that different genders are experiencing this pandemic differently? I heard this question asked on a podcast the other day, and I thought, oh, I must ask Gina what she thinks about that, because you've traveled to a lot of origin countries. You've lived a life that is just extraordinary. Do you think that this is a pandemic, which is something that we've never experienced before on a global level in living history? Do you think that genders experience this differently?
I don't know about genders experiencing it differently. I don't know if I'd put it that way. I think a human emotion is a human emotion, no matter what.
I love that.
No matter whether you're man, woman, no matter.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. I probably wouldn't even try and answer that, because I think we're all human beings, and we all obviously personally, the way you're behaving about life pre-COVID-19 is going to determine whether you're a man or woman. The way you adapt, or the way you handle what we're going through in the middle of COVID-19. So I don't think it's got anything to do with gender. No.
I love that answer, because the kinds of things that I was hearing on this podcast were that, women are more in danger when it comes to things like domestic violence when people are forced into isolation. You've got the onus is on women to do a lot more of the education and a lot more of the caregiving for the family and the cooking. And my thing is, I don't know that we live in a society anymore where that's necessarily the way it has to be. But perhaps that's me being ignorant. Like, you couldn't get a man to tell me what I could and couldn't do for the fucking life of it.
Yeah, same here.
She's shocked.
Yeah, I find that really. I did read a bit of. I did come across that sort of statistic. I'm not really sure if that's the truth. I think there's. Okay, let's just say, for instance, these frontline workers.
Yep.
A lot of them are. I did read that a lot, predominantly there's a high percentage of women working in frontline. But what pressure does that put on the man that's at home with his children? That's still the same thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know about these statistics and whatever. I think, as I said, a human emotion is a human emotion, whether you're a man or a woman, and it's up to you individually how you handle this. And I think support is really important. Like, I've got a great support network. I've had to work at it.
Yeah.
I had to really work at it, Lee. But the funny thing is, they're coming to me wanting to support me, and now I've had to learn that take it while it's there. Let them. Allow them to support you.
Yep.
Because they feel good when they support, and it's good for me, because then I don't get stressed out and I don't get run down. But I guess I'm not sleeping as much, probably because I am excited with the changes that are happening. I've got a lot to do. It's not.
So you opened an espresso bar.
Yeah,
that's one change. What else is changing right now?
Well, without giving too much away to my competitors if they're listening, I love you all. They all know me. I guess I'm going to go down the route of automating a lot of my systems.
Oh man, you don't know how exciting that sounds.
Yeah, it's really exciting, and I was really worried because I thought that takes away from that human to human thing, but it's not. It's actually going to be a lot more fun, a lot more. It's going to create a lot more efficiencies within my business.
Is this on the roasting side or on the cafe side, or both?
Both.
Yep.
Both.
Our podcast producer Brett, who we know is listening, he's going to probably hit you up and want to follow that journey and hear about that, because he and I were talking about it the other day, how exciting it is, the influence that COVID-19 is going to have on people having to automate. And it's going to really push that whole kind of, it's going to necessitate that so that we can adapt to how do we survive as cafes when we no longer have the luxury of filling a cafe because you're not allowed to anymore.
Well, not yet. Maybe I'm hoping it's going to come back, and I do believe it'll come back.
Well, they're saying, and by they I mean scientists, this is medical people are saying that we'll have to maintain social distancing until we either have a vaccine.
For a while. Yeah.
And a while means 4 years.
I know. Yeah.
So like what we were saying with Mikey, it's not one of those situations whereby the hospitality industry is going to go away. That's not what we're saying.
No.
But the game has changed now. So what you're going to end up with is predominantly takeaway cafes And a restaurant that would hold 100 people before is now only going to be allowed to seat 10 people.
Right.
So 10 people in a cafe is simply not profitable. Sorry, in a restaurant.
Yeah.
Having a restaurant that's built for 100 people, having 10 covers, you either have to jack the price up 10 times to cover what would have been 100 seats, or you've got to come up with different strategies. Now, the same thing, like I used to work at Harry's in Bondi.
Yeah.
And we used to do 1,000 covers a week, each weekend day. Now, the majority of that came from dine-in. Now, if you're not able to turn the tables over, if you're not able to fill the cafe and turn that over as quickly with food, et cetera, how are you going to do that?
I know.
Especially on the rents in places like Bondi. It's just not possible.
It's not possible. Yeah.
So the game's changed.
Yeah, it's changed big time. Yeah, we're definitely, I keep saying to people after this, the world is never going to be the same again. It's going to be totally different. We can't expect to go back and do business and do life the way we used to do it.
That's why your suggestion of automation just sounds like such a wonderful natural stepping stone for innovating and thinking on your feet, not innovating, adapting. This is what needs to happen in order to meet the moment the way that in business, the way that it's presenting itself, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's what I've realised. When this whole thing hit, I thought, wow, well, I can't just sit around and just wait for an outcome. I've got to be the outcome. I've got to put things into action. And I'm working on a couple of really interesting and amazing things, which will all be uncovered
offline.
Yeah, yes, offline.
You sent me a press release that hasn't come out yet, but we were. I have the luxury of being able to read it ahead of everybody else getting it. And tell us about the thing that you've been working on. And this is not specific to COVID-19, but it's something that's definitely, I guess, it becomes more relevant during times like this because we've been posing the question, let me put it that way. What's our responsibility on the consumer end of the value chain to producers? And now more than ever, we have to be asking ourselves that. What's our responsibility to coffee producers? Go ahead.
No, was there more to that question?
Well, I was just going to say, when we look at what our responsibility is in considering that, we have to look at it from a different frame than we did 6 months ago, right?
Yeah.
And this is where your press release brought me a lot of joy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, good. Because you'll tell us about what the program is in a second, but it definitely takes what this moment has presented us with and gives us insight into a part of the value chain that helps us solve a problem that we've got. So tell us about what the program is.
Well, look, as you know, last year I travelled a couple of times to Papua New Guinea, and in the past 4 years I've been travelling, helping out with the coffee festival in East Timor, or Timor-Leste now it's known as. And back then I could see an opportunity. So both these countries, so let me go to Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea, Papua New Guinea coffee has been a part of the Australian industry for 50 years.
Yeah, wow.
But do we really talk about it anymore? No. What do we highlight more? These, Ethiopians and Panamas, and which are all stunning coffees, which, by the way, I use. But what about our regional growers?
Yep.
And just traveling back and forth to these countries, I started to see, we need to bridge a gap. There's a gap in the market, especially for millennials, up and coming millennials. that, you know, were coming in, and I could see this new, this new generation of coffee roasters and you know, and baristas and, you know, millennials coming into the Australian market. And, you know, they were all about, you know, finding the best coffees, you know, the most extraordinary coffees, but the exotic locations. And I tell you what, going to Papua New Guinea and East Timor, but Papua New Guinea, if you want exotic, if you want a paradise, if you want to visit a paradise, Papua New Guinea is stunning.
Really?
It's unbelievable.
We should go there together someday.
Well, I'm going to organise a group trip.
Excellent.
Yeah. Because, you know, they're our neighbours. And I was so ignorant. I didn't realise the history between Papua New Guinea and East Timor in Australia, both amazing countries with a lot of history. And, you know, the coffees are incredible. So as I said, 50 years, Papua New Guinea coffee has been a part of Australian coffee culture for 50 years, but it lost its limelight because of many factors. You know, the poor prices that farmers were receiving, you know, poor infrastructure, dare I say corruption, just a lot of things.
Do you know Ollie from
from
Condesa?
Condesa,
Yeah. Ollie, when he came, he is. Shout out. He's such a great human. When he came on the podcast, he sent me a picture. He told us about a woman from PNG who she was so proud to hand over her coffee to him. It took them something like 12 hours in a car and then a 15-hour hike to get to this village where they had this coffee, right? And this woman hands over her coffee to him, and she wanted to show him how she processed it. Wow. She had a stone, and she hand processed every single cherry.
Oh, wow.
She cracked every single cherry with this stone.
Wow.
And processed it by hand.
Yeah.
And if anyone wants to see those photos, go to scroll down through our Instagram. And that's the pride of the women from Papua New Guinea. It's just beautiful.
The women there are incredible. So I guess, there's so many stories I could tell you about PNG, but I am working on a very small project, I guess, and you know, things don't happen overnight. This thing.
I say that as someone who's been working on so many fucking projects. I'm like, I love when people are telling me that, oh my God, this is such an amazing time to just chill out. I'm like, shut the fuck up. There's no chilling out happening.
No, there's no chilling out. No, there's no chilling out. And that's the other thing that this situation has allowed me to, I mean, I'm constantly working on this particular project because I really believe in it. And, they had to start mowing now, didn't they? They're starting to mow it. Can you hear it?
No.
Oh, okay, that's all right then. The reason why I'm so passionate about this project is, and now even more so, and I knew there was a reason why I had to do this, is because, I mean, I'm reading some things about there's going to be a shortage on coffee from places like Ethiopia and I don't know where else, but more so Ethiopia. And Ethiopia now with and Kenya, and now with the new minimum coffee price directive that they've put in place.
Has that gone into effect?
Yeah, that's
gone into effect. Why don't you explain it to people who haven't heard it?
Look, it's fairly complicated. Well, it's a bit complicated. I was a little bit taken back when I heard, but I think it's got positives and negatives.
Okay.
The positives are that, yes, Ethiopia probably does need to increase their prices, but it's not necessarily going back to the farmer. That's the negative.
Right. So who's it going to?
They've set a minimum. So I think it's the exchange, because Ethiopia has their own coffee exchange, and I believe it was set by them. I could be wrong. But we
should get someone to come on the podcast and explain it to everyone.
Because that's going to be a huge thing, Lee. That's going to be huge, and it's going to have a flow-on effect because, I mean, I use a lot of Ethiopian coffee in my blends, but they've set a minimum price. And if
do you know about where it is? What price it is?
I was told the other day for a grade 4, you might be looking at $8 a kilo.
Wow. You know, so for like $4 a pound.
Yeah. For a grade 4 though, a grade 4.
And what
a grade 3, you're probably looking at $9 or $10.
And so what grade is specialty?
The grade 1s are definitely specialty. Grade 1 and some grade 2.
So you're looking, that's maybe astronomical numbers.
It's huge. It's going to be a huge difference. But considering their trade deficit that they're in, they've got to do something.
Yep.
And because coffee is their number one exporting commodity, they've got to do something about their pricing. But as soon as I heard that, I don't know why, I go on my gut feel. Intuitively, I thought the farmers are going to still be screwed, basically. Then it's not going to flow back to them.
Brett, if you're listening to me, and I know that you are, let's take a look at that.
Unless there's some direct trade action where, you know, the money goes directly to the farmer, which I think that's opened up a lot more as well. I mean, I'm not big on don't have a lot of knowledge on the Ethiopian coffee
we'll find someone industry to bring on the podcast to talk about it, because I want us to understand exactly what this is about. It sounds like it would be fabulous for Ethiopian farmers and processors if that is getting back.
If that is the case, yeah. But I mean,
but
that
if
would be
a tax, you know what I mean?
Yeah. See, I don't know. I don't know if it's a tax, but
which it may work like a tax, like an export tax that goes straight to the government to get the government out of deficit.
It could be that, yeah. As I said, I'm not really 100% sure, but I know it's going to have a big fight. Coffee trade has already rung me. And saying that they're not going to be buying coffee from Ethiopia because it's going to be too expensive. Oh, yeah. Because look, you've also got to look at, and really when you think about it, Lee, it has happened at the worst time, you know, because we don't even know the fallout of the, you know, economically what's going to happen with the coffee industry. We haven't seen it yet. It hasn't happened yet, right?
No, it's happening. It's happening. Defining now.
It's defining now, but you know, we haven't seen the real effects yet. It is happening, yes, right now, but when everything starts to come sort of back to, I don't even know if we can say back to normal. I mean, luckily I bought up a lot of coffee last year.
Great.
I did buy up a lot of coffee.
You've got stuff.
I've got plenty of coffee.
Yeah, great.
I've got plenty. I forward ordered a lot of stuff last year. But more importantly, going back to Papua New Guinea coffee, the reason why I'd like to highlight this regional coffee buying is because of that reason. We may not, you know, have as much access to coffee far away like that. So why not look to our regional coffee growers like Papua New Guinea, like East Timor? I mean, Papua New Guinea, they have the ability and the capability of growing a lot of coffee and of supplying a lot of coffee, but the demand has to be there. And because of all the things that, you know, have put them back, they are rebuilding.
Mm-hmm.
They are starting to rebuild and restructure, and there's some amazing, you know, there's some amazing industry projects and funding going back into the coffee industry in Papua New Guinea. But yeah, where was I going with this?
Well, could they become, do you think, the alternative for Australian producers to, like, a viable alternative?
Definitely.
To Ethiopian? And like, are we getting high scoring coffees from PNG?
From Papua New Guinea? Yeah, look, I mean, obviously the footprint of the Ethiopian coffee compared to a Papua New Guinea coffee is different.
It's not there yet. Yeah,
it's different, But the terroir and the microclimates and micro-regions of Papua New Guinea are stunning, are just as amazing.
Yeah,
I
wow.
have never been to Ethiopia, by the way.
Yeah.
But Papua New Guinea does have the capacity or the ability to be able to produce a lot of coffee. Back in the 1990s, I believe, they were producing like 1.18 million bags of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're down to 700,000 bags of coffee.
But they have the potential to increase.
They have the potential, huge potential.
And economically,
but the demand,
right?
Yeah, sorry.
No, not at all. Go ahead.
Yeah, the demand dropped due to, as I said, all those reasons above, and obviously coffees like Brazil, there's always with Brazil coffees, there's always an oversupply of Brazil coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And Colombia being, I think, the second or third largest coffee producing company.
Brazil,
industry.
Colombia, Vietnam, top 3.
Vietnam, yeah. I mean, yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see, as we say, the history is being written right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that people are going to find solutions is going to be interesting to observe, because I hope that when people look for these solutions, they don't do what typically happens in our industry, where they just go for the thing that's going to be the cheapest and make them the most money.
Exactly.
What my hope is that people look at this with more consideration and more thoughtfulness towards the value chain. So there's no reason why you can't maintain the same numbers that you're spending right now, finding a different supplier, working with producers to create the quality of coffee that you need, especially when they have a huge incentive to want to win a whole bunch of business by planting and growing and processing the kinds of coffees that a market wants. It sounds like what P&G wants to do, and Timor-Leste.
Yeah.
Am I saying that right, Timor-Leste?
Timor-Leste. That's another extraordinary country that I've seen develop its quality. Really? Because I've been going there for the last 4 years, as I said, as a coffee specialist judge. And, the first year I was like, oh, wow, what is this coffee? It's terrible. And the beautiful thing about running coffee quality competitions is not for us, it's to give the farmer the feedback that they deserve and they need.
Yeah, wow.
Because they want to understand what it is that us,
the consumer end
wants. What do they want? Yep. So East Timor is doing an incredible amount of different processing methods that I tell you, taste like an Ethiopian. It can taste like an Ethiopian. I was really impressed. And you might want to get, he'd love me saying this, you might want to get Matt Grayley on from Raw Material. Incredible guy, very, very, very intelligent what he's done, and really helped the Timor-Leste coffee farmers. He's really shown what they can do when you put in, infrastructure, number one, good infrastructure, and when you introduce some different processing methods.
You've got to introduce us.
Yeah. Oh,
Matt
Grayley, and he owns Raw Material, and he does some lovely, really unique coffees. And he's helped the coffee farmers in Timor-Leste a lot, to realise their potential with what they've got.
This goes back to that thing that we were talking about, that in moments and situations like this that we're being presented with, being innovative and adapting is what's going to get you through, right? So if Ethiopian coffees now are going to skyrocket in price, it doesn't mean we don't support those producers if we can.
Exactly.
But what it does mean that if you're unable to afford those kinds of prices, you can find new markets to tap into and make popular.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at from a planet carbon footprint perspective.
Exactly.
P&G is so close to Australia.
And it'll take like 2 weeks to get a container, as opposed to
months
from Ethiopia or whatever other country. Yeah. But I'm not saying don't buy from those countries.
No.
at all.
But
Because
think
I'm still
about the
buying.
alternatives
Think about the alternative.
if you want to
Think more
diversify.
regional. It's
Yep.
almost like the cafe industry. Think, support your local business. It's almost that we're taking it to the farming level of support your regional growers. And Papua New Guinea is extraordinary. They've got so much potential, and they're much bigger than East Timor, much bigger.
Have you been in contact with your peeps over in PNG?
I'm in contact with them all the time.
How are they doing with regards to COVID-19?
They're not too bad. I did ask Elijah from Alpha Coffee. I did ask him, how are you going over there? And I think when I spoke to him last, which was 2 weeks ago, they were just introducing the whole social distancing, but I'm not sure how that's going to happen there, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it's like in a village. It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. I was going to say, because, I mean, if you see some of my footage of the documentary that's coming
amazing. Check the photos out on Numero Uno's Instagram. They're just so beautiful and colourful.
They're really colourful, really beautiful.
You've got a documentary coming out?
Yeah.
Of course you do. I can't wait to see it.
That as well. Yeah.
That as well, because you've got nothing else going on and lots of time free.
Oh, too much. Yeah. But, I just encourage people to really look closer to home. I will be bringing in probably 4 containers of coffee, to start with. So, 4 containers.
What do you think they're going to score at? Like, what kinds of scores are you looking at with PNG?
I was scoring them at 85, 87. Beautiful coffees.
Wow.
Yeah, 85, 87. Yeah, look, PNG had such an incredible reputation back in the 90s. And I was using a lot of coffees back then. Well, not in 90s, but the early 2000s, I was using Papua New Guinea coffee.
Yep.
But yeah, they've certainly got a lot of potential. And again, it was just through building relationships. I got a phone call from a guy in Adelaide saying, "Can you help my friends' people in Papua New Guinea?" And I said, "Well, who are you?" And this is how it all started. And he went on, and I just said, "Look, just send me the samples to start with, because I don't know who you are."
Yeah.
And and he sent me the samples, and I was blown away. I had to recup them just to think, hang on, is this Papua New Guinea coffee? Yeah, I had to keep recupping, and then I took them home and recupped again. I thought, this is extraordinary coffee. I rang him and I said, "Okay, now tell me, what is it you want me to do? Who are these people? Who are these farmers?" And that's how it all started. And, the welcome that they gave me last year was, I went in November. Oh, was it November? Sorry, September. My apologies. And I had nothing planned. I brought a guy with me to do all the videography and the filming, and we had nothing planned, because nothing gets planned over there. And I didn't really know what to expect. So here we are in 4-wheel drives. I had bodyguards constantly around me. And going and visiting these remote locations. And I'll never forget one village. You know that photo that you took with all the village people around me?
Yep.
That was the village. That's a memory I'll never forget. So we rock up, and I wasn't feeling quite the best that day. I think I had a little bit of a stomach bug.
Uh-huh.
And but when I jumped out of the 4-wheel drive, slowly, one by one, we arrived at this dusty little village, and it was like a 3-hour trip.
Yeah.
On this bumpity road. It was all the way like this, all the way,
That'll do it to you.
Yeah, and maybe that's what it was. I don't know. But I get there, and there's dust. These villages are on dusty ground.
Yeah.
And they've got these thatched roofs and thatched little houses, and no electricity, no light.
Wow.
And one by one, these women started gathering around me, and I tell you what, whatever stomach bug or whatever I was feeling, they took that away, because the hugs that they were giving me was extraordinary. Man. Yeah, I actually was teary, because I thought, well, I haven't felt like this in years.
Real,
then
genuine empathy en masse.
yeah, just like, wow. And then later on, I was told, so the driver told me, Gina, did you know that they said that they've never had a visit from a white woman before
Ever?
in their life, ever? Apparently, they've never seen a white woman on their land before.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was extraordinary. And the connection that I made, I still feel that woman's hands grabbing my arms and saying, please, can you help us get some books? Our children have never seen a book in their life.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Wow.
and you know, they go to school without shoes, and but these women were quite good with their English. You know, they were the teachers of the village children. And that's something that's stuck in my mind, and I have to do that. So next time I'm going to bring probably 5 suitcases of books.
That's amazing.
You know, yeah, I mean, books. Kids these days throw them out here.
Yeah, and they don't have access to internet and computers and all that kind of stuff over there.
They've never seen a library. They've never seen a library in their life. And I grew up in libraries, so I was mortified.
Yeah.
I was immediately so held. I felt held accountable. I really felt guilty. I felt so accountable to these people. What did I feel privileged?
No, you felt guilty because of your privilege?
I felt guilty because how can someone else on this planet have never seen a book? And I've seen many books, and my children have read so many. How can someone else not have that?
Yeah.
Just a simple thing as a book. Yeah.
And it's a problem that you can help solve. So it's not
easy.
That's an easy problem to solve. You're not looking at solving world hunger. This is your mission. This is one of your causes.
Yeah.
And it's something that can go towards helping like an industry, especially with the Aussie dollar doing what it's doing right now. And we were talking with Felipe on the podcast about this.
Yeah.
Excuse me. In Brazil, they're going to get hit hard with regards to what's happening right now, even though their yield is really high and they've got a lot of coffee to move. A big problem is going to be that the real up against the Australian dollar, not the Australian dollar, the American dollar, is just really bad. So it's taken really 70% hit. So for the same amount of money, you're buying 70% extra coffee year on year. So that they've had to do 70% extra work just to make the same kind of money that they made last year. But then add to that the fact that we don't know if consumers are going to be buying as much coffee as they were or not. So right now it's skyrocketing.
It is.
Because supermarkets are buying a ton of supermarket coffee. But where does that sit with regards to the long-term plan? And the Australian dollar is going to experience a very similar thing. We had someone who joins us regularly on our Instagram lives, Alex, in Adelaide. He was saying that his importers were saying, if you're going to buy in US dollars because that's the most stable currency for you to purchase in right now, as opposed to buying in Australian dollars and watching the fluctuation happen forwards and backwards. So, it's going to be really interesting to watch it track the way that it needs to track. But this is a solution. This is a viable solution that you've been able to come up with that works for Australian roasters and is a viable fix, provided that they can get on par quality. This may be something that works, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yes. And they definitely can. They definitely can buy. PNG coffee is quality coffee. It just, unfortunately, Papua New Guinea overall as a brand lost its
credibility.
Yeah, I think so. But going there and knowing the quality that they can produce, and I've been using it for the last year.
Yep.
It's definitely quality. You can definitely buy quality.
I guess that's it's a perfect storm right now, isn't it? It's an opportunity right now. You've got a kind of a gap in the market that affords you the opportunity to say to people, if you're looking for an alternative to Ethiopians right now that's more affordable, why don't you just cup it?
Yep.
Tell me what you
Yeah,
think. Or send it to them and don't tell them where it's from.
that's a good idea. Yeah, that's a
Just
good
send it
idea.
to them and just say, I got this new coffee in.
Yeah,
Taste it. Tell me what you think it's from.
yeah. You know, it's interesting though, Lee. I think we've become, and I hope I don't offend anybody, but I listen to people. I've been watching the industry for years here in Australia. I don't know about America, but here in Australia, we've become such coffee snobs. And
Oh,
maybe
I
you
love
laugh.
that you think that that's the thing that's going to offend people on this podcast.
Uh, but
No,
but
dear.
where I'm going with this is people have become coffee snobs, and you know there's been this race to get, you know, these extraordinary Panamas or these extraordinary Ethiopians, and by the way they are.
I think the word you're looking for is coffee elitists.
Oh,
not
maybe
snobs.
elitists. Yeah, not snobs. Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, probably coffee
You know what I mean?
elitists.
Like it's more than coffee snobbery. Like
Yeah,
it's not just about saying, you know, well, I like my coffee this way. It's like
yeah,
I have to have a Panama that scores this much that I paid $800 a pound for because I want to be able to say that I'm the only person that could afford that.
yeah,
It's this weird kind of elitism
yeah,
that there's nothing wrong with it as long as we're taking care of as much of the value chain as we can. Like if that's all you're hanging your hat on, well, I hate to tell you, but specialty coffee is going to get very, very hard to come by soon. Especially as we watch what goes on at origin producing countries with regards to the logistical nightmares that are presenting themselves
exactly.
with COVID-19. Like we don't know. Felipe was saying this, Gilberto from El Salvador saying this. It's one of those things of if you can't get the employees to work on at the level of specialty that they need to work on, you're going to have to sacrifice the quality of that crop and it's going to end up in commercial.
That's the sad part. We've been pushing, there's been this push for specialty. And what is specialty anymore anyway, to be honest? What is it? Right. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well,
maybe we should say high scoring. But there's been in the past years, there's been this mad push for really high scoring coffees that, you know, is not sustainable for every coffee roaster, which, by the way, isn't sustainable for every cafe owner. It's just not sustainable. And that's when I went to talk face to face to some of the farmers in Papua New Guinea, because there was this, let me go back.
Sure.
So last year I attended this this coffee symposium in Port Moresby, which is the city capital of Papua New Guinea. And there was all these all these amazing people that rocked up with lots of lots of advice, and they brought their talks, and I did one as well. But it was all about how can we stimulate Papua New Guinea as being that amazing coffee growing region again. It was all about that. So there was, agronomists, there was scientists, there was my amazing friend Andrew Hetzel, who actually was the he was the head consultant for. You have to get him on.
Okay.
He's so
Introduce
interesting.
us. Introduce us so I can make that happen.
He is really interesting. He was the one that actually introduced me to East Timor, by the way. Well, no, not originally, but he was the one that got me into the whole, specialty coffee judging for the East Timor coffee.
Okay, for the coffee festival.
Because he was the one who headed up the the strategic consulting for helping East Timor. Then he was the one who headed up the Papua New Guinea strategy, and he also did Myanmar. How do you pronounce it? Myanmar. So you need to get him on board,
please.
Andrew Hetzel.
Yeah, introduce us or connect him with Brett, and we'll make that happen.
Well, he moved to Hawaii. Good on him.
Oh well, he's probably amongst a lot of the people that I know in Hawaii.
Oh, really?
Is he a part of the coffee industry over there? Is he working in coffee?
He would be. Yeah. He's a
Yeah.
coffee strategist, and he works globally around the world.
What's his name?
obviously.
Andrew Hetzel.
Hetzel, Hetzel.
Heard that name.
Yeah, he's a really great guy, really intelligent. He's just helped a lot of countries, he basically goes in and he analyses the situation of a country like, what happened to Papua New Guinea? Why aren't they at the forefront like they used to be?
Oh, he sounds like someone I'd love to have a conversation.
You got to meet him. And he did that with Myanmar. I always get Myanmar. Him and Matt Grayley worked on that one. But yeah, where was I going? Going back to the conversation of. Oh, geez, Lee. Sorry, I
no
went
problem.
off track.
We were talking about how you were talking at the festival. No, was it the festival?
Okay. The symposium.
The symposium.
Coffee symposium. And it's all been recorded. It's online. It was last year in July.
And what were they saying? Were they trying to come up with a strategy on how they can approach different markets, or?
Yes. Well, yeah. So, I mean, one of the things that came out was that they've got to rebrand their whole look and feel of what Papua New Guinea is all about, which I think they need to do. I don't know how far I don't know where they've got with that, but I could see that. So it was good that was highlighted. And also getting rid of a lot of red tape, lots of red tape involved.
In getting coffee out of PNG?
Out of PNG, logistics and things like that to certain parts of the world. But it was only to certain, it was interesting, it was only to certain, they tend to look after the bigger exporters, right? The middlemen, the bigger exporters. So my thing with Alpha Coffee being a small cooperative of maybe approximately 3,000 to 4,000 smallholder coffee farmers, was to encourage, don't wait for these big buyers to come and buy your coffee, because they're not going to, they don't get paid what they should be paid per pound for their coffee. So this is why I'm working with these guys. I'm working, to work with them directly. I'm working on a direct trade basis.
Make sure you and I have a conversation off air about some ideas that I've got for you.
Okay. This is more direct trade basis. I mean, there's always going to be those bigger exporters. That's without a doubt. But these are the ones that these small. This is why I love Elijah, what he's done with his people. They're becoming disgruntled. The farmers are becoming disgruntled. They told me, face to face, Gina, why should we go and nurture our coffee gardens? Because they call them their coffee gardens.
Wow.
If we don't get paid for,
they're not wrong.
The cost. Yeah, to even cover the cost of our labour.
This is the problem that every origin country is experiencing right now.
Yeah, they're all experiencing
Guatemala, El Salvador, like commercial crops all over the world should be looking at, well, listen, if you want our coffee, you're going to have to at least cover the cost, pay for it.
Well, they've got to get more than just covering the cost. And, direct trade is helping, because I know how much I'm paying my coffee to these guys. Direct trade is helping because there's no middle people involved in the middle.
What I want to say to that is, anyone who is listening and wants to, I guess this is as good a time as any to announce this. We were actually today, we would have been finishing off right at this moment our workshops at SCA.
Yes,
the 3 workshops that we were going to do. What we've decided to do is hold a 3-day education fair kind of thing online. And so day 1 will be focused on green coffee buying. Day 2 will be focused on roasting, and day 3 will be focused on professional leadership.
Wow.
And so all of it will happen in one space. The highlight of each day is going to be a 3-hour education program that's going to be presented by 3 different people. On day 1, that education program is going to be presented, a 3-hour presentation from Jamie Isets and Christopher Ferran. So what they're going to talk about is how they establish direct relationships with producers, no matter how small a quantity of coffee you're buying is. Then they're going to talk about the logistical way that you do that. So they're going to give you a spreadsheet that they have built specifically for this workshop so that you can start your forecasting efforts.
Wow.
And then the 3rd hour, what they're going to do is talk about how everything that they've just told you has to be readapted for COVID-19, for the new industry. So that's going to be the highlight of day 1. And day 1 is presented by Costa Oro, who is a green coffee warehousing company here in the US that is, Ariana Hartstrom is one of the most intentional leaders I've met. I can't wait for the 3 of us to sit down and have dinner. You'd love her. She's amazing.
Okay.
And she owns Costa Oro and built it when she was 19.
Wow.
Didn't take a paycheck for 12 years.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, so do I. And so that's why I think, like, when I had her on the podcast, I mean, it was just a wonderful conversation. She was one of these people who, when I called her and said, hey, listen, the workshop's not going to happen, but we're going to take it online. Do you still want to sponsor it? Oh, and by the way, we're going to make it free for everyone to attend. And she said, if this is going to be great for the community, we're going to support it.
Wow.
So I have so much love for that woman. And the fact that because she's sponsoring that, it means we can pay the speakers. They're not going to turn up and do it for nothing. It's fantastic. No. And just like when we did that workshop in Sydney and you sponsored that assertiveness training, because that's the kind of change that you want to see in the industry.
Exactly.
I mean, it's amazing that when we do show up for this kind of stuff, I still get messages now from people that are like, I use those skills that I learned in the assertiveness workshop.
Good.
Isn't that great?
So good. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah.
So it's one of those things of relationship buying is going to change the way that people are able to operate in the industry. And now more than ever, it's going to be important if we drive that forward. That relationship. Are they open to selling to to the Americas in PNG?
Of course. Oh my goodness. Okay. You know what? I did miss one thing that I was trying to get back to, and I'll come back to the selling in America. So I took Elijah. This is the guy that heads up Alpha Coffee, the cooperative in PNG. Took him to one of the biggest cafe expos in South Korea, in Seoul last year. So I went from PNG to PNG July, PNG back in September, then Seoul, and then East Timor, and then to Seoul. I think it was in that order. Anyway, but I took him because I said to him, why don't we go to because I got a really good friend of mine. Geez, I got friends that you could have on your program, that you'd love. Another great friend of mine, Armando.
Bring him on.
Armando Sierra, if you're watching. He's amazing. He, anyway, so he said, why don't you come to this cafe expo? It's one of the biggest in the Asia Pacific. And I said, yeah, okay, I've always wanted to go. And I introduced Elijah to some coffee traders over there, and they want Papua New Guinea coffee.
Really?
Yeah, because this is where I was going with the whole Australia is so spoiled and, a bit elitist, right? But yet when we rocked up in South Korea, at that cafe expo in South Korea, they were like, oh, my God, is he from PNG? We can hardly get any. We want your coffee. It's like it's like an exotic thing for them. Because they know how exotic the location is. I mean, it's really,
and close.
and close. And so I introduced him to a few green bean buyers there, and there's also a particular area in Papua New Guinea where you can only fly in and fly out to get this coffee, and they wanted that. So Elijah is working on that at the moment because it's really it's a very exotic location. If you want exotic location, Papua New Guinea.
PNG.
Yeah. And
is it dangerous, Gina?
Yes, it is. It can be. You've got to know the right people, and be with the right people.
Okay.
I think they're right in saying, especially for women, you wouldn't want to walk around there by yourself.
Okay.
But I didn't feel the danger, maybe because I had 3 bodyguards with me constantly. In the villages,
the woman knows how to travel.
Yeah. In the villages, I was fine. Yeah, I was fine.
Yeah.
But yes, it can be because they've got some interesting tribal sort of there's a lot of tribal culture there. It's very it's an interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure how far to go with that, but the things that you do hear about does happen. But I mean, I felt completely safe.
Someone walking next to you with a machine gun or big muscles.
Well, just things like chopping of the heads, and it's like that's how they deal with certain things over there. But it's
in everyone's history.
It is actually. It is, and that's the thing. I'm like, okay, well, if that's the way it's settled, I mean, geez, I tell you what, we should chop some of these people's heads off in this world.
I could go on down a rabbit hole with you right now.
We better not go there. But
look, there's people who are protesting because they have their civil liberties are being their civil liberties to get a fucking haircut. Are being betrayed right now. So they're standing there in full camo with a shotgun and a sign that says, I have the right to a haircut.
Really?
And you just think, I wonder if somebody's showing you, did you look in the mirror holding that sign before you allowed yourself to walk out of the house and make a statement like,
wow.
But who the fuck am I to say that that's irresponsible?
God.
It's one of those things of I think the civil liberties are incredibly important. I don't want to sound like I am in any way diminishing or demeaning or mocking anyone's right to civil liberties. But there's a fine line, and the Constitution is really being tested, the Constitution in America. And the idea of civil liberties are really being challenged and questioned and stress tested right now when we're looking at where is the line between what your civil liberties are and your social conscience meets that. So your responsibility to your community versus your civil liberties, that's an interesting collision that's happening right now. Do you think? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
So people are being fear-mongered into thinking, be careful, they're going to take your guns away from you. And they're being triggered in that way by people with special interest groups, people who want to stir up some shit.
Exactly.
And what other people are saying is, hey, listen, this isn't a hoax. Like between 700 and 800 people a day are dying in New York. That's not a hoax.
No, that's right.
So we don't want you to be in the same position. Me personally, and I'm fine with saying this, the way that I see it is the same way as the Tide Pod Challenge. Do you know the Tide Pod Challenge?
No, sorry, no.
We don't have Tide in Australia. Tide is a laundry detergent.
Oh, okay.
And Tide Pods, when they wrap laundry detergent in like little plastic thingies and you just throw it in the washing machine.
Yep.
So there was an internet challenge called the Tide Pod Challenge. And so kids were daring each other to eat as many Tide Pods as they could.
Oh, what?
My philosophy is
Oh, gosh.
If somebody wants to eat a Tide Pod, you should fucking let them. And
That is
you should
crazy.
buy them for them and get them to eat as many fucking Tide Pods as they want to eat. Because if someone is stupid enough to eat a Tide Pod, we should not let them get to reproductive age.
Oh, my goodness.
That's
Hang
just
on.
my personal
But-
opinion.
Wow, but hang on. Tide Pods, they're used for dishwashing
Laundry.
or for
Laundry.
Okay. And
The
they were
challenge
eating
was
them.
the challenge was that they could eat a Tide Pod.
Oh.
It was called the Tide Pod Challenge.
And what age group was this?
It was a millennial thing. So
Right.
it was about 4 years ago, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah,
So
okay.
they were challenging each other to eat Tide Pods. And so now when you go to a supermarket here, Tide Pods are locked away. You have to take a pamphlet to the
Wow.
cashier and they will give you a box of Tide Pods. And you have to be of a certain age to buy Tide Pods.
That's crazily. It could only happen in America, right? Or not?
Well, you know, the way that I see that as a geneticist, I see that as this is natural selection at work. And so if
Wow.
you've got people who seem to think that they deserve a haircut more than they deserve to stay safe, maybe you should listen to them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm a bitch. Like
No, you're not.
when it comes to things like that, I feel like these people, I really respect their love for their civil liberties. I really do. But right now they're being negligent.
Yeah, that's it. That's right. That's not
And
civil liberties. Like you said, there is a fine line.
it's about what's the duty of care that we have to each other. And so, and the same thing with someone who's stupid enough to eat Tide Pods. What's the duty of care that you have to your parents and to the people that love you? You know,
that's
if
very
you eat a Tide
strange.
Pod and it poisons you, you have no kind of consideration for what that's going to do to the people around you. But you know, like I said, maybe that makes me some sort of a bitch, but
I don't think so. No, that's an observation that, and everyone's entitled to their own. Like, I mean, that is ridiculous. Sorry. Like, I'm going to go and look this up, this Tide Pod thing,
oh man,
because that sounds so ridiculous. But this is the thing, you know, this is what I don't get. And I think people need to travel more. They need to go to places like Papua New Guinea.
yeah.
Right? Is that where you were going with this? Because
Well, that's what my thing is. Like, we're stuck in our bubbles.
yeah, you're
where
stuck in your
we're
bubble.
looking for shit to complain about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This is not a time to complain. Who the fuck's going to see your hair right now, bro?
No, it's ridiculous. And then you go to a place like remote locations where they've never seen a book in their life, or they don't go to school with shoes. They don't have lights. Once they're in their thatch hut little homes, there's no light. After the sun sets, there's no light. I mean, that's another thing. I'd love to get solar power there, but this is crazy. I know I don't understand
It's
that sort
another
of mentality
form of privilege, right?
Yeah, it is. It is because, and it's almost saying, well, if I swallow this and have maybe 10 of them, well, there's always going to be an emergency operation room that's going to help me, pump my stomach. I think that's the mentality of, I'm not saying all young people, but there is a lot of that mentality that who cares?
And I mean, it's one of those things where you look at it in this situation, it really removes this whole age thing, right? The people who are going out there and protesting about their civil liberties, again, before anyone comes at me and says, you're against the Constitution or you're against people's right to bear arms or anything, I'm not at all in any way.
No.
I think this is a time for us to show up for each other, not just for ourselves. Governor Cuomo from the governor of New York was talking about it yesterday, and he was saying, one of the journalists was saying to him how, what's his response when people say, it's my right to go back to work, my family is starving, and you have to let me go back to work. And his thing is like, listen, the alternative is death. You can either experience the hardship or you can die. And it's not just about you dying. Like if this was a situation where you had to choose if you were going to walk out onto a battlefield and get shot and dead, well, that's you choosing
Different.
about your own life. But
That's
you're
right.
not. You're going out there and you're making choices and you're mixing in a community where you may be carrying a disease that kills other people. You will be responsible for their death. And so if you really need to go out and work, go take a job as an essential worker. That's the responsible thing to do. You can't go back into your cushy little job. If you need a job right now to feed your family, go work as an essential worker.
But like you said, there's so many people living in their own bubble, and they probably are traumatized, and they probably
this
don't
is how they're
realize.
expressing it.
Yeah, I think they just don't realize what's really happening. I am definitely all for our civil rights. I'm probably huge on that. But you've got to, I think everybody has to assess the situation at hand. And like you said, like I don't like it when, I don't like to be controlled, and I bet you don't, right?
No way.
Definitely, we're on the same page there. And I can probably see a lot of control coming out of this whole situation. There will be more, surveillance sort of things popping up here and there.
Monitoring and
all that monitoring. There is a lot of fear mongering. I've got a beautiful friend of mine who works he's a nurse, but he sits on a phone at night time because of the overwhelmed.
The systems are being overwhelmed.
Right. They set up this hotline where they, people that think they've got symptoms can talk to somebody like my friend Emil. I think he's watching still, maybe. And he sits there from, say, 6 p.m. at night until 3 a.m. in the morning, and he's got some stories to tell.
Oh, I can imagine.
He said probably maybe 5 to 10% may have the COVID-19 sort of symptoms, but the rest, they're displaying symptoms of fear, which then becomes depression, and also suicide. There's a lot of that.
Wow.
Yeah. So he's a really good person to, really understand what's going on in people's lives. Because as I said, you got to remember, what were you doing before COVID-19? What were you doing to fill your cup, to be a better person,
to
think better, to be enriched, to
build
stay
your character,
strong, to build character? What were you doing? It shows in times of crises how people really do behave and what their true character is. So it's an interesting time that we're in, and really, it's almost like survival of the fittest. I mean, I haven't used that in years, that saying,
but it's true. That's what
true.
I'm talking about with regards to this. These people who are going out there and protesting, they seem to think that it's okay for all of us to get back to normal. But by getting back to normal, hey, the way that I see it is, if you want to do that, you go do that. But I'm not going to put myself in danger because I know better.
Yeah. And really, people should take this time out to reevaluate themselves, their whole situation. What is life really all about? It's not about go, 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 go. I think this is great in a way. And I'm not meaning it in a horrible way of saying that. How can you say that, Jen, that this is great? That person will never understand me anyway. No. You and I. Those sort of people will never understand what I'm saying. Of course, it's ruined a lot of. Of course, it's been detrimental to people's businesses and devastated a lot of people's lives. But and I kept thinking about the homeless. I kept thinking about the elderly through this. I thought, well, what are they doing for the homeless? What's happening?
Here we've got over 100,000 homeless just in California.
Wow. No, I know it's pretty bad there.
And what they're doing is they're buying hotels. Like the state is buying motels.
Oh, wow.
They're buying camper vans. They're buying trailers. And they're lining them all up and saying to them, shelter in place here.
Right. Well, that's a good thing.
Well, it's great because it was a situation that they had to fix anyway.
Well, look what's come out of that. They've
Yeah,
given
it's
them
great.
shelter for the
They
homeless.
literally bought the hotels.
Wow.
They didn't lease them, they didn't rent the rooms, they bought the properties.
Wow, that is extraordinary.
It's the 5th largest economy in the world, California. So,
yeah.
you know, they had to do something, and this was getting out of hand. You couldn't drive around LA. Anywhere near an underpass was Tent
Wow.
City.
Wow,
Skid Row is...
Yeah, my daughter, Elisa, you know she lives in
Yeah,
LA.
yeah.
Hi, Elisa, if you're watching, Mummy.
Hi, Elisa.
She still calls me Mummy.
Oh, how cute.
in her crazy moments. She once ended up accidentally in Skid Row.
Oh, that's
and she
terrifying.
was like, wow. She said, Mum, she went into shock. She could not believe the amount of homelessness in that area. If
you've never heard of Skid Row, just get on YouTube and just take a look at what some of the video accounts are in Skid Row. It's a festering ground for a disease like this because
really
there's no... Everyone lives together, outside but together. There's in their tents, they're lined up on all the streets. It's a whole suburb of Tent City. And I mean, you look at this situation. I mean, I heard of what's happening in Dubai. There's one region, one part of Dubai where they've just cut it off. People in this part of Dubai are not allowed to leave, and they're not giving them any shelter in place orders either. They're cutting them off from the information. They're just letting them walk around because this is a really, really poor part of Dubai. And they're thinking that there could be a situation where they're using it as an opportunity to depopulate.
Does not surprise me.
We've got to accept, like, you can't turn around and say that's a conspiracy theory. People are absolutely going to see that as an option right now.
Yep.
I mean, the conspiracy theories are running thick and wild, but...
Oh, I'm sure they are. But if there's a thought, this is my thinking. Yeah. This might sound a bit crazy. I don't even know why I'm going to say this, but if there's a thought, there is no conspiracy. I don't know. I'm trying to say it in a way that...
That's interesting. I've heard people constantly say a version of that recently.
Oh, that? Like, I don't know. I don't even know
where did it come from? You know, people saying, like, conspiracy theories come from somewhere.
They've got to come from somewhere. Yeah.
And look, I'm of the theory that right now all of these conspiracy theories that are around COVID-19 kind of doesn't matter. It's here. How it showed up, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, yeah. Even if
it's like when 9/11 happened. Figuring out who drove those planes into the building didn't fucking matter at the time that it happened.
No.
You know, this is figuring out how this happened is for later. We do know that it happened. Was it man-made? Was it not man-made? What difference does that make right now?
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true.
The state of Missouri has sued China. They're pursuing this lawsuit against China. Wow. Okay, good for you. What's that going to achieve right now?
Really? Wow.
They're the first ones to do it.
Wow.
And go
I've
ahead.
I've heard the flip side where
it's America.
You know, like it's like you said, you can keep blaming, you can keep pointing the finger, but what does really matter is that people that we're actually pulling together as humanity. You know,
we come
as
together.
Humanity, we come together. And we come through this stronger and better and wiser, probably wiser. You know, that's what it's really all about. Because there are so many people suffering, and there really is. There is a lot of people suffering.
And right now it's about how do you show up for yourself and how do you show up for other people. This is a defining moment that people will remember how you treated them. So
true. And I think that's the best we can do.
Yep.
For yourself first, and then the people around you that you love and that you care about, and whoever comes in that you know, because there's always going to be an odd person that's going to come into that picture, which has happened to me. And my customers at the moment, and that's the best I can do. And obviously, I'm still working on helping my Papua New Guinean friends. You know,
well, whatever we can do to help with that, just let me know. I want to have a conversation with you offline about an idea that I've got for you, and we'll definitely do that. And just like that, Gina, we've just talked for 2 hours.
And you know, we could talk more and more.
Another
but
15 hours.
Go.
Yes. So thank you so much, love. It's been an absolute pleasure. Stay safe and healthy, and give my love to the kids and the grandkids and all those awesome humans that work for you.
Thank you. Thanks, Lee.
Be well, love. And I'll talk to you soon.
You too. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Peace, love, and peanut butter, everyone. Have an amazing rest of your day.